Reverend MeeLing, Reverend Susan MeeLing, Lady Dori Belle. I've had a few names here, obviously. And so, I had attempted to do the video. I forgot a few things. So I'm going to go in a timeline order as best as I can. Just for the oddities and the coinky dinks. So, back when I think I was 5 years old, maybe 4, I was at my babysitter's house. Oh wait, no, I think I was 6. I think I was 6 years old because my biological sister was born and she was crawling or walking. So I was probably 6 years old. And so, I was at my babysitter's house, Sonia, and Joe or Jose. And I was in the front yard right by the mailbox. And I had taken a step backwards where the flowers were. I got stung because I accidentally backed into a bee. I did. Felt so bad. I did. I felt so bad because, you know, well, there was the little bee. There's a little bumblebee. Funny thing. A little baby bumblebee. Oh, and I got stung. I can laugh at that now because that was then. Anyway, so, and it was a honeybee. It was one of those big, and you know, if you've seen a honeybee, they're actually fluffy. And for bees, it's still tiny, but it's still a little fluffy. You got little fluffies. And it had a big old booty. For a bee, it did. Anyway, I got stung, and then I had an allergic reaction, and then she had to use tweezers to get it out. And then, you know, deal with that and sort of stuff like that. And she was just, oh my God, Susanna, and what? She goes, oh my God. And she had seen something that had essentially the pattern, essentially, from the sting. And she was just, oh my God, Susanna. Yeah, what? What's up? And she, okay. And she started doing these rituals after seeing that sign on my leg from the bee sting. And she was just, and she was from the Dominican Republic. So, you know, however you want to look at that in that regard. And so, later, when I was older, and at that point living in Illinois, I told my biological parents I wanted my first car that I got to be a VW Bug. And they were like, really? That's what you want? Yes. You know, I mean, think of the trunk space. I mean, it's unique because it's in the front of the car. There weren't many vehicles that were made that way. And I mean, one of my other groups of babysitters happened to be mechanics at the Amco garage station that my biological father's best friend owned. And I mean, not that I very much liked the 442 and all the different cars that they worked on, just some serious muscle cars. And I mean, not that I didn't want a bunch of those, but for my first car that I got, I wanted, you know, the VW Bug. And I wanted to soup it up. I wanted to put all sorts of stuff to make that engine so much stronger and faster, and I'm gonna get to that dichotomy. And so, you know, what they did, they thought it'd be funny. And to anybody who's into cars, you'll understand this. This was cruel. This was cruel. So, you know, the year that, you know, I turned 16 for my 16th birthday, Anna and Mike, my biological parents, say, Susan, we got your birthday present. We got you a car. I was like, oh, I got a car, you know, like, and I was so excited because, you know, turned 16, I got a car, yay! So he gave me this box, thinking, oh, the keys must be in the box, yay! I unwrapped the box. It was a model car of the VW Bug. Cruel joke, right? Cruel. 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 What teenager would not instantly be like, what? Any adults that could be like, that's mean. Like, that is absolutely atrociously mean. I cannot be the only person that thought that that was atrocious. Well, I had to do what I had to do to keep myself calm. Ironically, that day, there were a whole bunch of tornadoes in the Midwest, like shortly thereafter from receiving that as a gift. Just a weird little dichotomy, a little coinky dink. And so, fast forward through time, and I can actually get my first car. You know, every car that I had been able to get, I had to finance. And I don't like financing cars. I know that there is a need to, you know, but I really prefer not to. I prefer to not owe money. Like, that's a thing that I have. Having a car payment is owing money, and I don't like that. I'm not that type of person. I will deal with it. Like right now, I have to, but I do not like car payments. I do not. I'm not that type of person who's like, yay, another car. No, that's a bill. I don't like bills. I can't be the only one. I can't. I can't be the only one who likes not having bills beyond, you know, electricity and insurance. I can deal with those bills. Those like, that's, I understand that, but having car payments, I don't like that. I don't. And so I don't like, it's a personal thing. I cannot be the only person that's like that. However, so I was able to buy my first car after my now dead ex-husband died. And I went to the car dealership, and I was like, I want a Bug. Now, I still want another Bug. It's not that I don't want another Bug. However, at this point, I need to be, in certain regards, similar to when initially getting cars and having enough space for things. And I'll get to that. And so, yes, when I was scuba diving, I could put all of the scuba tanks and stuff like that in there, though there's the Medal of Honor or project stuff that, you know, need to make sure is squared away. And so, because of that, there's that. But, you know, when I can, I want to be able to, but again, in a similar sort of way, where I just go in and this is what I want. That's it. I have a lot of books you can go through and buy. Go to my website. Anyway, so I got a VW Bug. And when I went to the dealership, they had one that had all sorts of extra stuff in it. I was like, you don't have roll-up windows? No, that's not a possibility. Well, it is, you know, the end of year clearance sale. Okay, you know, and I got it. I got it all. It had a turbo engine. but I was surprised that the trunk was in the back. And the guy at the dealership was like, "What do you mean you're surprised that the trunk is in the back?" I was like, "I'm surprised that the trunk is in the back because the the original Bug had the trunk in the front, and so it's just, it's not the same. What happened?" And the guy was like, "Well, the company did some revamping, this sort of stuff." I'm like, I mean, that's cool. Trunk's not in the engine not in the back. No, the engine's not in the back. How did you know that? And I was like, oh, and I explained where I grew up and stuff like that. Told him about my head injury, all that sort of stuff on Palm Sunday in 2000, the after effects, and I was just like, when did that happen? It's sad. I mean, it's cool. It looks good. It does. It's sharp looking, but. I guess you could make a joke, about when I was pregnant, right? And so, anyway, so later on, I had a lot of fun with the VW Bug. However, after certain events that occurred in reference to my daughter, I needed to have a bigger car. So making sure that my son and my daughter were squared away when I would have to drive, I had gotten the Solara. So I could still have the convertible, but have more trunk space in comparison. And yes, I know I was able to make the VW Bug fit a lot of stuff. I mean, 2 scuba tanks, my scuba diver bag, with all of my equipment in there and stuff like that. However, there were other bags that were going to need to be put in the trunk, and also my emergency kit was also in the trunk and stuff like that. And so it was one of those, I needed to make sure that I could fit stuff in there. And it was going to be bigger than that stuff. So that would be why I traded the car in and got the silver Solara. And so I I did deal with all of that, and so fast forwarding through that time in a brief way of the stuff that I was dealing with from 2010 all the way through essentially 2013. I had noticed that there were a bunch of issues, like in certain areas there were these storms full of grasshoppers. At that time, it was just fields and fields of grasshoppers everywhere, and then locusts coming out of wherever, and I was like, wow. Huh. I mean, I know I'm angry, but I'm staying calm, I'm being cool, despite what's going on. There was even a situation shortly after the aspects of where when in Cedar Park, there were these flies that came out of nowhere. I was using Windex to clean them, to get rid of them because of how many, and because the bug spray wasn't doing anything. It's like, but the second that the male that I was involved with at the time, Philip Armstead, had gotten out of the house, no problems anymore. Those flies went away. Like the day he was taken back to Dallas, no problems. I mean, there were still issues that I was dealing with. However, that was not one of them. And so, in that real quick pause of that irony, Montana in 2018, I could have swore I saw Philip Armstead at Great Falls in Montana at the fountain that was empty. Weird little dichotomy there. And thank you to the maintenance guys who did not allow that door to open because of maintenance that was being done to that door. And so I didn't go out and see whether or not it was, but I have a feeling, hypothetically, that was Philip Armstead playing a guitar there. It's a really good thing. And then the irony is the year before was the solar eclipse, 2017, where there were a whole bunch of people that were in the cemetery location where I was looking to get my Medal of Honor recipient from that location and didn't find him. But there were issues with the tower that had the computer for me to research where to specifically find that Medal of Honor recipient. And the two females that were down the street at the very tiny miniature mall setup area that were using their cell phone or whatever. A little weird coinky dink in that regard. Kind of looks like one of the females kind of looks like one of the females in the apartment next door in 736. And so, just a little bit tanner, that one. Anyway, so, although I could have swore I just heard someone just say the F word coming out of 736. So, then there's that stalking issue and harassment. And so, fast forwarding from those times, and fast forwarding past the aspects of Cowboys Dance Hall and that one of the females of the group that was with Kevin looking similar to the female in 736 in my apartment complex building. Weird little dichotomy. Before my son and I wound up in Washington State, and I had discussed with multiple people throughout the years that I had not wanted to leave the state of Texas, and that if I ever left the state of Texas, it would be to be closer to the ocean, but it would be below the Mason-Dixon line. Big important factor. And there are several people that would know that. So there's Frances, who I knew in San Antonio. She was there when I had dealt with a phone call with my now dead ex-husband. Then just ex-husband. No. Just before the final separation for ex-husband point. Yeah. And so, and that was at Jim's on I-10 in Huebner. And so, which is another weird dichotomy, because there was a guy that I dated just a very brief amount of time with the last name of Huebner. And then he kind of disappeared. Anyway, so, in that regard, wound up in Washington State, along the coastline, just, you know, not below the Mason-Dixon line, obviously, way above the Mason-Dixon line. And my now ex-boyfriend actually had discussed getting me to Alaska instead of Washington State with my son, by the way. So, that being said, when living in Lakewood, after the time in Vancouver, Washington, um, there were these bees that built a hive in the house. And it was in the vicinity where I usually was whenever talking on the phone and trying to tell the people that I was able to speak with on the phone before just nothing. Like I didn't receive any phone calls anymore. Tried texting them, didn't receive any texts back. And weird coinky dink, my now ex-boyfriend, was going to ITT Tech at that point. And so, and it was well known of my issues with technology before then. And right about the time that those bees built a hive in that house was just after not being able to receive any more phone calls or texts from the people that I knew. And also, I had originally gotten some soundproof equipment, just the little padding stuff, little egg carton looking stuff, for the, because I was going to try to do more of those video things, independent journalism type stuff. Though there were certain issues, mainly because of what occurred when it came to the e-cigarette, and I had to recuperate from that. I had smoked the e-cigarette, and I pushed the button, so for those who know what type of e-cigarette, it was a Toro, and it was a copper tube, and you put the battery inside, and you push the button on the bottom, and then it did the e-cigarette techie thing. And right when I did that and I was inhaling, there was a blue arc that went from my fingertip all the way to my face. And, you know, headaches and migraines, that's painful. It was already painful being in Washington State. And so then, after that, then the electrical current that blew, like I could watch it literally and figuratively as that blue was going throughout all of my body that I could see. So like my hand was this was lit up. Oh, this was lit up. These tattoos, oh, they were so bright, but they had all the electrical stuff going. It was actually kind of pretty, but it was painful, extremely painful. And so, and then like this arm was lit up, so like this blue right here was the color like emanating throughout all of my tattoos that I was able to see, and as well as that e-cigarette just wrapped around it and bouncing and stuff like that. I could feel that electrocution from like the tip of like the longest point of my hair, wherever it was, all the way through each individual pore. Don't be jealous. Every single vein of mine, every single muscle of mine, each individual ligament of mine, all of my bones felt it through each and every teeny tiny, very big bone, the marrow of it, every little thing. Do not be jealous, because it was extremely painful. Extremely painful. Every one of my tattoos, I felt the ink, little itty bitty dots, just poof, light up. Because, yeah, this was each and every one of them. Don't be jealous. Yeah, every single fiber of my being lit up. And I could not remove my finger from the button because anybody who's survived an electrocution, I don't know if there's many of those, but you just can't, let go of the trigger because it just doesn't work that way. The battery had to die out before I could stop feeling it. And so it took a long time, a very, very long time. Irony, when I was able to have that stop, I went to leave the room that I was kept in, and I got electrocuted when I touched the door that, my now ex-boyfriend put a lock on, by the way, on the outside. There was a key to get into it. And so, plenty of times I had issues getting out of the room because it was locked. And so, but after this, very few times that door was locked. And so I opened up the door after being electrocuted, and he looked at me. I don't know if that door was locked at that point in time, but it opened. And so opened the door, and what are you doing out of your room is what my now ex-boyfriend said. And I'm gonna go to the restroom. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Yeah. And he looked at me and goes, "What's wrong with your eyes?" I was like, "I don't know. What do you mean?" And he said, "Your eyes, they're blue. Your eyes are blue." Oh, that might just be because I was electrocuted. And so I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and I'm just gonna try to calm down because it hurts. It hurts a lot. Very, very painful. Nobody should be jealous of that. So, I did what I could to stay calm. And then, in reference to those soundproofing things, I had noticed my neighbor to the left when I was in the house. His wife would leave their house angrily whenever the teenage boys were doing their music in the garage. Well, after what occurred, I was like, well, I don't think I'm going to be using these. Not anytime soon, so I am going to take these over there, and maybe they'll be able to use them. Because happy wife, happy life. And so it was in a good-natured way. And then shortly after that, my son told me that guy had asked him a bunch of questions. I was like, what questions did he ask you? He had told me at the time, I don't remember now, and I was like, oh, and you're my son. I'm gonna be nice. Just do what I can to stay calm. Minor, and yet. Okay. And so, shortly before a hive of bees built in that area of the house, and that guy had apparently yelled or something to my now ex-boyfriend who took my son and I to Washington State. One of those, okay, well, contact the owners about the beehive building there. And when I got back, as the beehive was being removed, the guy who had done the removing, he had asked if he could take the bees with, because apparently there was an issue in Washington State when it came to bees and honey making bees. I said, yeah, bees make honey. Not a problem. Make sure you get each and every comb so that way you can get all of them and not one stays behind. That way, not only does that keep the house safe for my landlord and their family, but the neighborhood as well. And then, you know, get those bees going. And the guy was like, really? Absolutely. Make sure. Yeah, no problem. They'll grow quickly. And fantastic. And so, then, fast forward through a few issues of my Medal of Honor art project. And then my return to the state of Texas. And the issues in regards to that. So today is the 27th of April 2020. Tomorrow is the 28th of April 2020. 10 years from the day of what occurred to my daughter, the Fort Worth Zoo, because of McCoy Elementary School in Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District. Not going to discuss what I hope occurs. I'll just keep that to myself. However, one thing that I did notice is after that beehive was removed, there were drips of honey on the wall in the room that I was kept in. Like it was actual honey. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. I have never seen that before. I mean, I've been in certain locations. I've seen condensation when I get out of a shower. But that's honey. Yeah, that's honey. That's interesting. And so, wow, okay, huh. Interesting. Okay, well, you know, whatever. And so, you know, then there was this event that I was at a couple days ago, and I was speaking with a guy, and the guy was telling me that in 2010 through about 2012, 2013, there was a decline in honeybees. Oh, what happened? Well, apparently these killer bees just started swarming all around the earth, and I was, Now, I don't know how my face looked, but in my thoughts, I had quite a few sadistic thoughts. I did. It was one of those, well, karma. Yeah. Karma. Trying to keep calm with everything that was going on at the time. Karma. Okay. Yeah. A few other thoughts that were going through. I was like, What years? Oh. Huh. Interesting. It's very interesting. And so I've been thinking about that a lot. Because for those who know bees, they pick up on a certain frequency. They do. And if the queen bee is not happy, the other bees pick up on that. I'm not saying I'm a queen bee, because that would be, you know, a little arrogant. I mean, you know, you can make a joke about that in certain regards to certain things. However, you know, just kind of a little odd coinky dink on certain things. And so, among a few others. And so, you know, trying to remain calm despite the fact that tomorrow is what day it is. And I was told, I didn't notice this, but I was told that certain times of the year when I was, you know, it's just natural that I'd remember certain things, and then I was told what month it was. I was like, oh, well, that makes sense, because this time, on this day, and this year, this occurred. On this day of this month, this year, this occurred. And so, you know, weird little coinky dinks. Just weird coinky dinks. And so, within, I think it was about, let's see, probably January, maybe February of this year, in 2020, there were a whole bunch of beehives that built up in the apartment complex, as well as fire ant hills and a few other things. Just a weird, odd coinky dink. So leave your comments as to what you think on that. Maybe there's a little bit of a dichotomy and weird coinky dink that somebody can piece together. Have a good one.